Good morning, Year 8. Okay, so we're moving on today to start to look at the text of Nothing's Changed. So your do now task is on the board. Please write a DD sentence for me about your week so far. Don't forget then that means giving a simple description and then following it up with some detail using the 2 dots, the colons in between. There's an example at the bottom. My teacher was pleased with me. That's a simple description, followed by the 2 dots, the colon, and then the extra information. Why is my teacher pleased with me? So it says I've worked really hard this week. So pause this video now and do your DD sentence. Amazing, well done. Okay, so we're going to read through first of all the poem Nothing's Changed, and you can see the full text of that now on the screen. You can also see those pictures. So we looked at those at the very end of last lesson looking at the poem. What you're going to do now is choose a quote from the poem as we read through that you think talks about any of those individual pictures. So at the top row you've got pictures that show some wealth. You've got decent food, you've got a romantic meal with wine. In the middle at the top you've got that whites only bench there to show that apartheid system. Remember, the word apartheid means that anybody who was different was made to live somewhere else. And then at the bottom you've got some images of what life was like in the ghetto of District 6. Okay, so as we read through a poem, part of what you need to get into the habit of doing, because poetry is part of your GCSE, is highlighting and writing around it. Really, really small, because there's not a huge amount of space. So if you have capacity to print this slide, then I would suggest you do that. And the way I would do that is I would pause the video here, and then I would use something called snipping tool to drag and drop a box over the top of it and then copy that to Word. But it's up to you if you can or you can't. If you can't work out how to do something like that, then don't worry about it, but you're going to have to listen to the talk of annotation today in a sort of theoretical way rather than having a go yourself. So you're going to pick out things that you don't understand, or you might spot a simile, or you might spot some repetition or alliteration, things like that as we're working. Okay, so the poem's called Nothing's Changed. Small, round, hard stones click under my heels. Seeding grasses thrust bearded seeds into trouser cuffs. Cans trodden on, crunching tall, purple, flowering, amiable weeds. District 6. No board says it is, but my feet know, and my hands, and the skin about my bones, and the soft labouring of my lungs, and the hot, white, inwards turning anger of my eyes. Brash with glass, name flaring like a flag, it squats in the grass and weeds. Incipient Port Jackson trees, new upmarket Hope cuisine, guard at the guard post, whites only in. No sign says it is, but we know where we belong. I press my nose to the clear panes, know before I see them there will be crushed ice, white glass, linen falls, the single rose. Down the road, Working Man's Cafe sells bunny chows. Take it with you, eat it at a plastic table's top, wipe your fingers on your jeans, spit a little on the floor, it's in the bone. I, back from the glass, boy again, leaving small mean O of small mean mouth, hands burned for a stone, a bomb to shiver down the glass. Nothing's changed. Okay, so how did you do? Did you manage to find anything to annotate? Did you manage to follow what was going on in that poem? It's quite a long poem, isn't it? But we're going to take it apart bit by bit and work on that together. Okay, so the first task that you need to do is to work out which of the lines in that poem relate to those pictures that you can see. So at the top we've got the posh dinner. Is there something there that tells us, you know, a posh meal being described, things like that. So look at each of those pictures and try and work out a quotation for each one. So pause this video and do that now. No good belching on video, that's not cool. Okay, so we're going to start to look at this essay question here, and we're going to start to work towards some P or peak paragraphs. Now we're building towards actually doing PCAUs, which you've heard me talk about a few times. So actually doing a peak is the minimum that we need to be doing at the minute, and we need to be aware that we're moving forwards to do better than that. So we're going to go through this verse by verse, and the question at the top then is, how does Tatamukulu, I think, Africa, present strong feelings about home in Nothing's Changed? So we're going to look at sections of the poem and try to identify keywords or phrases that link to the question. And we're going to annotate as we go, which is going to build your ideas. Although, as I said, that might be tricky if you can't print, and it's going to be tricky for me to show where I'd normally just write on the board at school. Okay, but we'll have a go. We'll talk about annotation while we do it. So we're going to work through then, first of all, the first two stanzas. So nothing's changed. Small, round, hard stones click under my heels. Seeding grasses thrust bearded seeds into trouser cuffs. Cans trodden on, crunch in tall, purple, flowering, amiable weeds. So let's take that one first of all. I think there's a lot of discussion there. So what's being described is something that's not very organised. So, for example, if you go out into Alfreton and you walk down the road to get to Tesco's, you won't be stepping on small, round, hard stones. You won't be dealing with seeding grasses or bearded seeds, okay? You won't be treading on tall, purple, flowering weeds. So all of those things suggest that it's not a very well developed area that person is in. Okay, so I would be talking about some of those, the nouns there, so stones as a noun, grasses, seeds, okay, and the weeds are nouns. And as well as that, you've got quite a few adjectives, so the stones are not just stones, they're small, round, hard stones. Okay, you've got tall, purple flowering weeds. Then you've also got the word crunch, okay, and click. So those you might be able to hear are onomatopoeias. They make the sound. So stones click, okay, and crunch when you stand on the weeds. And we've got the verb thrust there as well, suggesting some kind of violence that's coming from it. So it's like the seeds are deliberately trying to get into your clothes. So it's a kind of personification. In addition to that, the weeds are described as amiable. Amiable, I can't even say it. Amiable means kind of friendly. Okay, not violent, just sort of friendly. So obviously a weed can't be amiable, so again that's personification. Okay, so I would pause the video now and spend a few minutes annotating that first verse. Amazing. That second verse then, District 6. So that's what's being described in that first stanza is District 6. No board says it is, so there's no signs anywhere, but my feet know, and my hands, and the skin about my bones, and the soft labouring of my lungs, and the hot, white, inwards turning anger of my eyes. So the first thing that stands out to me is you've got that repetition, okay, but my, and the, okay, so you've got that repetition, so it's not just something they're aware of, but every bit of their body and mind is aware of this, okay, and they talk about that by some really almost intimate ways of talking about their body, okay, so it's the skin about my bones, it's the labouring of my lungs, and the anger of my eyes, so it's not just, oh yeah, I recognise this place, it's actually the word for it is visceral, okay, which means to do with the insides of your body, something deeply felt in your intestines kind of thing. So it's a visceral description. Okay, so I also would draw attention to the very last line. So it starts off in that stanza talking about feet and hands and skin and bones, and that's okay. Then we get to lungs, which is a bit more personal, and the lungs are labouring, so she's breathing heavily as she walks. That might just be because she's gone uphill, or because the ground is suddenly harder to travel on, okay? But at the same time, it's to do with how she feels too, because she then moves on to say, actually, it's the anger of her eyes, and it's inwards turning. She's fuming about something, and the thing she's fuming about is District 6, okay? So again, I would pause and annotate that verse now. Alright, sausage. Okay. So stanza 3 then, brash with glass, name flaring like a flag, it squats in the grass and weeds, incipient Port Jackson trees, new upmarket haute cuisine, guard at the gatepost, whites only in, but we know where we belong. So again, we've got some verbs here that are interesting. We've got brash, so something brash is a bit like in your face, it's a bit over the top. And the name is flaring like a flag, and it squats, so that again, that's something visceral, the idea of squat, okay, it's something humans only do when they have an poo or they're giving birth, really, so it's got that kind of intimate physical nature to it, or it's to do with something animal like, so toads squat, frogs squat, okay, and it's squatting, so the District 6 is squatting within the bigger town of Port Jackson. Okay, it's squatting inside the new upmarket haute cuisine. Haute cuisine, I think we talked about a few lessons ago because it came up in a different poem, but it basically means really, really posh food, where you have a massive plate with only tiny things on it, and you like smear the sauce that you'd see on MasterChef, something like that. Okay, there's a guard at the gatepost, so suddenly we've got that idea of violence coming through as well. Okay, so what's the guard there for? White's only in, but we know where we belong. Okay, so we've got this idea coming through. So like I said, I'd be talking about verbs in that one. We've also got the idea of juxtaposition, which we've talked about before. So juxtaposition is when you have two different ideas side by side. And here those different ideas are the posh area where the white people live, and then the slum District 6 itself. So we've got all those there. So again, pause now and annotate that verse. Amazing, you're doing so well. Verse 4 then, I press my nose to the clear panes. So looking through the window. Okay, and again we saw that, didn't we, on the pictures here. So you've got that picture there of the boy pressed up against the glass. No, before I see them there will be crushed ice white glass, linen falls, the single rose. So she's expecting to see these things when she looks through the window at the inside of the restaurant. Okay, yeah. So I think what you've got there is you've got things that represent richness, money, privilege, things like that. So that crushed ice, the white glass, the linen. Linen means like posh tablecloths, okay, or napkins, but like really, really posh ones you get when you go somewhere that are like thicker than sheets, you know, really, really nice ones. And of course a rose as well. So these are symbols of wealth and privilege. Pause and annotate this one now. Okay, then the next verse. Down the road, Working Man's Cafe sells bunny chows. Take it with you, eat it at a plastic table top. Wipe your fingers on your jeans. Spit a little on the floor. It's in the bone. So that's that contrast again, that juxtaposition. We've just seen the description of the posh restaurant. Now we've got places where the poorer people can go. I'm not really sure what a bunny chow is, but it's something obviously cheap that you can eat. It might literally mean eating rabbit. Okay, rabbits are fairly cheap usually. So you take it with you. You don't sit down at a posh tablecloth. You don't sit down where the... Violet, I'm teaching. Wait. Shh, 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 shh. Teaching. Shh. So you don't sit down, you don't have a thick tablecloth, you don't have nice napkins, you don't have glasses or roses. Instead you carry it when you go, or you sit at a tabletop, but it's like a plastic one like you might have in your garden. And you don't get napkins, you wipe on your jeans, you don't wipe your face, you spit on the floor. Okay, and then that last bit there, it's in the bone. So that suggests that this way of living, again, it's a visceral, personal, bone deep thing. Okay, so pause and annotate that verse now. The last one then, I, back from the glass, boy again, leaving small mean O of small mean mouth, hands burn for a stone, a bomb to shiver down the glass. Nothing's changed. So, back to reality when she moves away from the glass. She's writing from the point of view of a boy, okay? So, back from the glass, boy again, leaving the small O. So that's where the mouth, so when you do that when you're in your car and you go, sort of thing, or when you're being stupid through a window at a friend or a family member. So it leaves that O with condensation. But her hands are burning. She wants a stone or a bomb to break the glass down, to express that visceral anger that she feels. Okay? So, pause and annotate that last verse now. Amazing. So, we've worked really, really hard today. We've worked through 6 stanzas of that poem. We've annotated really carefully. And we're ready now, hopefully, to be able to pick out some keywords and phrases that you can write about. Well done. Oh, how do I press stop when I've got you? That way. Oh, no, not that way.